Sales doesn't need to be hard or overcomplicated. That's not my way of saying that sales is easy. Rather, I'm saying that you can have a successful career in sales if you develop a process and execute on it consistently. This channel is dedicated to what a sales process framework could look like and showcasing the different best and worst practices around the different steps of a sales process. The intention is to publish short, weekly videos that are easily digestible with clear action items that you can begin doing today. Welcome to Sunday Sales Staples. Today's topic covers one of the basic things that any sales professional needs to learn when they're interacting with prospective customers: how to handle objections. This will be a general overview video that showcases a tactical approach for handling objections that has worked for me and my teams in the past. And I will be publishing a separate video on responses to common objections that sales professionals get at nearly every company. Once the response video is published, then I will link it in the description below. But now, in case you haven't heard of an objection before, they are defined as any concerns or anxieties a prospect mentions during your calls and meetings that would prevent them from buying from you. These objections are explicit worries that you have to address if you want them to continue through the customer journey. Nearly every prospect you speak to has objections or reasons they're uncertain about investing in your product, service, or solution. If they didn't have any reservations, then they would have purchased it already. With that said, let's jump into an approach that I like to take when handling objections with these prospects. There are a few objection handling methodologies that you can find on the internet. However, the one that has worked best for me and my teams in the past is something I like to call ACAC. It stands for Acknowledge, Clarify, Address, and Confirm. It's a common methodology that you can find throughout sales organizations worldwide. Step one when handling an objection is to actively listen, show empathy, and acknowledge that your prospects have valid concerns. When you show that you are listening to their objections, the prospect won't be as defensive when it comes time for you to address the objections. You also need to avoid getting defensive and resist the temptation to jump in and respond immediately. When you're too quick to respond to their objection, the prospect may not feel as heard as they would like to be. The next step is to clarify the objection. This is critical so that you understand the inherent issue and that you address the true concern that they mention. A prospect might raise one objection about pricing, but they may have an underlying reason that can only be discovered by asking questions for further clarification. This step will help you remove any misunderstandings in your conversations, and this step generally takes the form of mirroring. Your prospect will dig deeper into the concern, and then you will mirror their words to make sure that you have a clear picture of how to overcome the objection. The next step is to address the concern. This is where you handle their objection with a predetermined response that should have been crafted by your marketing, enablement, or leadership team in anticipation of these objections. Too many times, sales professionals skip the first two steps and jump right into addressing the objection head on. This isn't ideal as you didn't make the prospect feel heard and you may not have the right understanding of the true objection. Only when you have acknowledged and clarified the objection can you tackle it with precision. And finally, we come to the confirm stage. As with other objection handling stages, you should be frequently checking in with your prospect to confirm that there is understanding and agreement. This is vital when responding to an objection because you want to ensure that the person opposite of you understood your response and assess whether you have adequately addressed their issue. It's not enough to present an eloquent response to their concern. The true test is whether the prospect acknowledges that you have satisfied their concern and you can move on. Let's walk through an example to show you this methodology in action. In this example, let's say you're selling a B2B SaaS platform that allows companies with fleets of trucks, like Amazon's delivery fleet, with insights into their fuel consumption, route tracking, and real-time safety examinations. Maybe you're having an initial call with a prospect and they say, "I don't trust your platform to provide accurate information when it comes to my vehicles." You could first acknowledge their objection by saying, "I understand that accuracy is a concern for people before implementing our solution, but could you tell me more about what specific concerns you have about the accuracy of this platform?" Then they could respond by saying, "When we implemented a solution like this in the past, the provider was accurate only 85% of the time, and we had to constantly correct them and their data. That's why we got rid of it 5 years ago." Moving to the clarification step, you could respond with, so your previous provider supplied you with inaccurate data and caused headaches for the entire operations team when rectifying these insights, correct? If they disagree with that statement, then you have to get them to clarify even more, but don't move on to addressing the objection until you get an affirmative answer. When they finally agree to this clarification, then you can move on to addressing the objection and say something like, over the last 3 years, our company has partnered with several hundred companies with fleets, and we have been able to provide accurate data in 99.8% of our reports. The 0.2% inaccuracies come from our early days. However, we have not reported any errors within the last 24 months. And wrapping up with confirmation, you could follow the previous sentence with, does this 99.8% accuracy give you the peace of mind that you need in order to continue exploring our solution? Ideally, they say yes, and you can move forward. However, you cannot move forward from this objection if they are not quite yet sold. You may need to go back to the clarification step in order to extract any objections that may be lingering in the back of their minds. Now, this objection example is a bit elementary. However, the purpose was to show you how easily this methodology can be implemented within your sales org. I would encourage you to start working with your peers and leaders to craft responses to some of the common objections that you face on a daily basis. That wraps up this week's overview of objection handling, and I appreciate you checking out the video. If you want to dig deeper into the skill of objection handling, then I highly recommend checking out some articles that you can easily find on Google. Some people will have similar ideas to mine, and others will differ. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to craft your own objection handling methodology, and I do hope there were some key takeaways that you can begin using today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, sales does not need to be hard. While sales is becoming vastly more complex with metrics and data, your process does not need to be so convoluted that it isn't easily replicated. Keep coming back to the channel to learn more about how to simplify your process and win new business. And feel free to email me at sundaysalestaples@gmail.com or reach out on Instagram at sundaysalestaples. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll catch you next week.